Chapter 14, The Ability to Activate Genetic Base Points at Will. Zhu Tui sat cross-legged, inhaled through his nose, and exhaled through his mouth. The long breaths allowed Zhu Tui to completely relax his mind and body and enter a meditative state within a few seconds. In his illusory introspective state, Zhu Tui suddenly became elated. 15. There were now 15 spots of white light in the figure's head. Zhu Tui's bold actions last night had caused the gray spot to light up. Based on what Zhu Tui had deduced in the past, he had now activated 15 genetic base points. However, that was not too important to Zhu Tui at the moment. The difference between activating 14 and 15 genetic base points was not large. There was something that was much more important. Zhu Tui could influence the direction in which he activated his genetic base points with his consciousness. Zhu Tui had not realized this all this while. It was only after he got out of the Special Intelligence Division and thought about it on the way home that he realized this fact. Based on Zhu Tui's current understanding, aside from the set number of genetic base points that a normal individual would activate during the day when the genetic liberation elixir was administered, they would also activate genetic base points at a high frequency within the 3 months after they were administered with the elixir. After these 3 months, an individual had to go through exceedingly arduous training or use special elixirs if they wanted to activate any more genetic base points. Under normal circumstances, elixirs that allowed for the activation of genetic base points were very expensive. They were also restricted items. However, Zhu Tui could direct the flow of his energy using his consciousness to activate genetic base points while he was in an illusory introspective state. This ability was too powerful. Zhu Tui did not know if that was anyone before him who had such an ability. However, neither the genetic theories they learned in their 3rd year, nor the resources that he was given after the genetic exams, or even the internet, had any information regarding the ability to activate genetic base points at will. Zhu Tui's first reaction was, would I be dissected at the Genetic Research Institute if this ability was revealed to the public? I must not become the subject of an experiment or a target for observation. I must not let anyone know about this ability. At least for the time being, before I figure the situation out, I must not reveal this ability. Zhu Tui had attended many observation classes relating to the genes of other biological creatures during high school. The rats, flies, and rabbits that he observed all did not end well. I must not reveal this to anyone. After experiencing the incident of capturing a traitor at the bubble tea store, Zhu Tui himself did not realize that he had suddenly grown. He had become a little more mature. Currently, Zhu Tui had to ascertain one more thing: was his ability to activate genetic base points limited to the head, or did it extend to the entire body? Or perhaps it could only be done to unique body parts. However, before he tested his theory, Zhu Tui first cooked himself 10 eggs in the kitchen. Zhu Tui only realized when he returned to his room yesterday that he had lost 5 pounds overnight. Zhu Tui had the habit of weighing himself every night before going to bed. He had casually stepped on the scales before he went to sleep last night. Zhu Tui remembered his weight to be 149 pounds, not too different from usual. However, when he got onto the scales just now, Zhu Tui was shocked to notice that he only weighed 144 pounds. A 1 to 2 pound fluctuation in weight daily could be attributed to food and drinks. However, there must be a special reason for losing 5 pounds overnight. Zhu Tui felt that it was most likely due to his reckless actions yesterday night. Thus, he prepared 10 eggs to replenish his energy tonight. Of course, Zhu Tui had better options. There were a variety of brands offering level F energy restoration pills on the market. These pills were about the size of a fingernail and claimed that they could provide an adult with 12 hours of energy. That included the energy needed for intense exercise. However, these pills could not replace food. Backpackers loved them, and people who did extreme sports. They cost $100 a pill. The advertisements mentioned that the energy provided by a level F energy restoration pill was akin to the combined energy provided by 12 to 15 eggs. The pills were a little expensive. Of course, despite how average Zhu Tui's family was, they could afford to purchase those pills. The main reason he did not use them was they tasted awful. The taste did not improve even after chewing. The existence of level F energy restoration pills also meant that there were level E energy restoration elixirs. Level E energy restoration elixirs were controlled items. It was rumored that they could be bought in Jincheng Prefecture's black market. However, Zhu Tui was only a third-year student. He did not even know where the black market was. Zhu Tui ate 5 eggs before he began his experimentation. It was easy to feel disgusted if he stuffed his face with the eggs. A little soy sauce and a little more vinegar. He cut the eggs into large slices, then dipped them into the sauce. It was delicious. A few seconds later, Zhu Tui meditated and entered the illusory introspective state again. He could quickly enter a meditative state by relaxing and letting his mind turn blank. He could then enter the illusory introspective state by focusing his concentration. Zhu Tui felt that he might be able to enter the illusory introspective state no matter where he was in the future if he practiced this skill. The illusory introspective state was made up of flashes of light and clusters of gray spots. Some of the gray dots were extremely small and even a little blurry. Other gray dots were displayed with extreme clarity. At this moment, Zhu Tui desperately wanted to go to school. He wanted to study at the Wuxia Genetic Evolution College and use the knowledge he learned to dispel the confusion he had. Zhu Tui only prepared to begin the experiment after he observed the figure covered in gray dots for some time. However, before he began the experiment, he recalled what he did last night. Zhu Tui had been too reckless when he rushed the gray spot yesterday night. The immediate outcome of that was he bled from all of his orifices and fainted. He felt a little scared just thinking about that. Would he cause his genes to break down if he overdid it? He would lose his only life. He had not thought it all the way through during that time. Zhu Tui felt that he had to learn from yesterday's incident. He had to try his best to go at it slowly during his experiment today. Lady Luck would not favor the reckless forever. Within the illusory introspective state, the gray dots in the illusory figure were mainly concentrated in its head, limbs, and other important organs. Yes, there were even several gray dots between his legs. Zhu Tui had a basic understanding of what kinds of abilities he could obtain from the different areas where the genetic base points were. For example, genetic base points in the head largely involved mystery branch abilities, including sound-related, smell-related, and vision-related abilities. These abilities had something to do with the genetic base points in the area. The genetic base points in the limbs were mostly related to speed and strength, though it might not be limited to that. As for the other body parts, Zhu Tui could not classify the abilities that might arise from activating those genetic base points based on what he currently understood. The human genome was too complicated. 100 years ago, most scientists have estimated that a human possessed 20,000 to 30,000 genes. However, currently, scientists mostly agree that a human body possessed 200,000 genes or more. Even though a human possessed more than 200,000 genes, not all of these genes were useful. Amidst humankind's long evolution process, several of those genes had become inactive as an outcome of the evolution process. Genes were also extremely complicated. A singular gene might be able to activate a certain ability within humankind. However, the activation of an ability might also be a combined effect of a few or even hundreds of genes. This was why the subject of genetic evolution was so complicated and difficult. The goal for Zhu Tui's experiment tonight was to see if his ability to activate his genetic base points at will could be extended to genetic base points outside of his head. First, Zhu Tui had to decide on a direction away from his head. The incident at the bubble tea shop today told Zhu Tui that individual strength was very important. Safety was the most important thing in this world. Only by having great individual strength could he enhance his safety to a certain extent. If his leg speed had been faster today, if he had more force behind his kick today, he might have been able to knock out the traitor nicknamed Autumn Pants. It would cause the enemy to completely lose the ability to fight. Looking at the larger picture, activating the genetic base points at his leg would allow Zhu Tui to run a little faster when he encountered danger, no matter if the genetic base point had to do with strength or speed. It could be used for both offense and defense. Zhu Tui chose to experiment on his lower left calf. However, Zhu Tui did not know exactly which genetic base point he should activate. He could see several hundred flickering gray spots in his lower left calf. Zhu Tui did not know which one was useful and which one was useless. He did not know which was speed, which was strength, or which enhanced his abilities as a whole. He only had one option: guess. He chose a genetic base point at random. However, he could not rush it tonight. He had to do it slowly. Fortunately, the ability to activate his genetic base points at will was largely influenced by his consciousness. Otherwise, Zhu Tui would have no idea how to operate the ability. Zhu Tui mostly operated the ability by telling himself what to do. It was like him telling himself that he was handsome. He would then be influenced by that thought and really think of himself as handsome. Actually, Zhu Tui was a rather handsome young man. Send a little more energy toward that location. Just a little more would do. After maintaining this thought for several seconds, Zhu Tui noticed that 2 to 3 streaks of the white light of energy that was pulsing out of his gut were being guided to the targeted genetic base point by his consciousness. That genetic base point trembled a little. He did not sense anything else after that. A little more than just now. Zhu Tui was very careful. He tried to make the activation process a little gentler. However, Zhu Tui became hungry after he sustained such a state for 40 minutes. He was famished. He felt starved even after he demolished the rest of the 5 eggs he had. He polished off anything that could be eaten in the fridge. Zhu Tui could understand how Cheng Mo felt now. The feeling of being starved was too hard to bear. He even wanted to eat paper. Zhu Tui ate until his stomach almost bulged before returning to his room to train. Zhu Tui called what he was doing training. An hour later, the gray spot at the lower left calf that Zhu Tui had been persistently attacking shimmered with white light as if it had been plugged in. It lit up. It was also at that moment that Zhu Tui's right hand suddenly convulsed in pain. Zhu Tui did not have the time to examine himself. A feeling of immense fatigue welled up within him. He felt as though he had not slept for days. He was extremely tired. His stomach also started to churn in hunger. However, even the ravenous hunger that caused his stomach to churn could not override his fatigue. Zhu Tui only relaxed his consciousness slightly, but he immediately fell into a deep sleep.